Hi guys! So we're going to look at another poem today. We're going to look at the very first poem in the relationships anthology. We're going to look at Belle Dame Sans Merci. So you'll need to turn to page 6. Word of warning, this poem is complicated, so I'm going to talk you through bits, but if you're still stuck, email me and I'll talk you through it further. So on page 6, we're going to follow the same process as normal. Create a mind map, a bullet pointed list of any connotations or associations linking to the poem's title and using the questions to help you out. Pause the video here and spend a couple of minutes on this task. I'm going to talk you through the title a little bit in a bit more depth this time. So if you've spotted it's not in English, fantastic, and if you spotted it's actually written in French, even better. So the translation from French means the beautiful lady without mercy. So that is a definite article, so it's a specific woman and she's beautiful, so an element of lust may be involved, but without mercy, so suggesting she might be heartless from the poet's point of view. So, and the image I've given you as well should help you out a little bit here. So from the point of view of a man or a knight, you can see in the image, talking about a beautiful woman. Why is the title in French? Why couldn't Keats just write the title in English? Spend 1 minute thinking about this. Okay, so this title is an allusion to a much earlier work of literature, and I'm giving you what allusion means on the slide. It's from a medieval romance from a French poet. The poem uses similar criteria of medieval tales. You've got knights, fair ladies, fairies, dream sequences. So think Disney but darker, so it's not all fairies and sunshine. And you can already understand some of the setting and the themes of the poem before you read it, which will help with your understanding. This is a little bit of context as well. So if you're recording information in different colours, this little bit is contextual information. Okay, so what is it all about? So either read through the poem or click in the link in the description to the first one to hear the poem read aloud, and then write a summary of what you believe the poem to be about. If you can just spot if it's positive or negative, that'd be great. Perspective, some of it is from a knight's perspective, but that is another confusing question. And see if you can spot any themes now we've discussed medieval ideas. So pause the video, read through it, and spend 1 or 2 minutes writing a summary. Okay, this time I've given you a second link in the description. I definitely want you to watch this one, hear the poem read aloud, and watch the short film. So this film is brilliant for your understanding. It shows the relationship really well and the abandonment, but it does use artistic license. So the alcohol, the violence, and the theft is not explicitly mentioned within the poem, so don't talk about this. But it does link to the themes. So watch this video and write a brief summary about what you believe the poem to be about. So what is it about? So it's a knight who falls in love with a beautiful lady and she leaves him. And then he becomes very melancholic. The language is old-fashioned, so it's in imitation of medieval romances, as said before. So I'm reiterating some of these points to help it stick. Setting is late autumn. So think about where you've seen a pond. Well, there's not a pond explicitly mentioned. Well, it's a lake, isn't it? So think about where you've seen a body of water and trees before, what other poems you might have seen this in. And the setting is the age of chivalry. So you've got knights and damsels in distress. Might be a good idea to watch A Knight's Tale if you can find it somewhere, because it'll give you, you probably enjoy the film and it'll give you an idea of what life was like with knights. Further to this, here's some context. Keats is part of the Romantic movement, so big ideas, big emotions in a very structural way. And this last bullet point, Keats suffered from some serious love problems, so he was going to be married, but to begin with, he was kept apart from his betrothed because of financial problems, so money issues, and then because of a terminal illness, so an illness he would die from called TB or tuberculosis, a disease of the lungs. Often you're quite pale. So think about the knight and how he is portrayed. So make notes on the relevant contextual information. Also, which other poets you've already come across were part of the Romantic movement? If you have figured out it is William Wordsworth, absolutely fantastic, because he was a Romantic poet and he talked about big ideas in a very structured way when he discussed his broken friendship to his friend. If you've mentioned One Flesh, Elizabeth Jennings was actually a contemporary poet, so not a Romantic poet. Some people believe she was influenced by the Romantics, which is a bit controversial because she actually joined a group dedicated to anti-Romantic. If you want to look further into this, feel free. Okay, so we're going to move on to form and structure. So your analysis, I'm going to give you some subject terminology here, and I'd like you to match it up. So if you've got a scrap piece of paper, you can just write down 1C or 2B or whatever you think is the right definition for the word here. So pause the video and complete this task. Okay, so self-assess. So a ballad, probably a new term for you, is a poem or song, narrating a story in short stanzas traditionally passed through generations. And you can see this is what the poem is written in, the form it's written in. Quatrain, thinking about that quadrilateral you see in maths. So quatrain, a stanza of 4 lines, especially one having alternate rhymes, A, B, A, B. This poem actually has A, B, C, B, so really close. And it is still a quatrain because it's still 4 lines. Iambic tetrameter, you've seen this before with other poems, and you've seen it in Shakespeare with iambic pentameter. So it's a meter in poetry and refers to the lines consisting of the stressed and unstressed. So that da-dum, da-dum. Oh, what can ail the knight at arms? And finally, we've got enjambment. You have seen this before, but just to remind you, so it's a continuation of sentences without pause along the end of the line. So it could show an overflow of emotion, or it should show a lack of control. So I'd like you to pause this video now and see if you can label these ideas on your poem now. Taking you a little bit further into the speakers and the structure of this poem, you need to try and get your head around this. So there's actually 2 speakers in the poem, and I'm going to talk you through it because it's not explicitly shown. The first 3 stanzas are spoken from an unnamed speaker who comes across the sad and sick knight and asks him questions. So he sees a knight and he says, "What's up? Why are you alone? Why are you pale?" The rest of the poem is the knight's response to the speaker. So he tells him what's happened to him. He's met a woman in the meads and they've spent some time together. He's fallen asleep and he's woken up alone. So why is there 2 speakers? One reason for this might be because the poem is written in the form of a ballad, and ballads could be recited by 2 different people, 2 different speakers, adding that linking to the idea of telling stories together to each other, passed down from generation to generation. An alternate interpretation is the knight is a figment of the speaker's imagination. Maybe the knight isn't even real, or possibly the knight's dream isn't. Maybe the knight's encounter with the woman is actually a dream. An idea to support this idea of the knight being a figment of the speaker's imagination is also within the structure of the poem. So within this first stanza, you've got alone and palely loitering, and the seizures withered from the lake, and no birds sing. And these exact lines are written, well, nearly exact lines are written somewhere else within the poem. See if you can spot that now, where this repetition is, and think about the technique this is, which you've seen before within a complaint and neutral tones. So pause this video, make some notes, and definitely see if you can spot where the cyclical technique is being used. All right, themes and language analysis. So see if you can identify anything from the poem that fits with these 4 themes. Love, women, thinking about the time it was written and maybe the patriarchal society, the supernatural, anything not real, ghosts, fairies, witches, and abandonment, being left alone. So pause the video now and spend a couple of minutes on this. Okay, to take your thinking a little bit deeper, I've taken the first 5 stanzas and I'm going to ask you some questions for you to complete to take your understanding deeper within this poem. So to start with, the idea of abandonment, alone and pale loitering, and no birds alone, not even nature's with him. Are these descriptions real or metaphorical? And can you link in any contextual information? Carrying on, you've got a lot of information here about the woman and how she is described. So a lot of she, you've got a woman, you've got hair, you've got a garland, you've got bracelets, everything sort of links to femininity, but it is juxtaposed within the same line, full beauty, a fairish child, with the supernatural here. So linking into a fairy, her foot being light, so almost floating, and her being wild. So supernatural wise, what might this suggest about either the speaker's state of mind, or what might it suggest about Keats' view of women and love? And this should take you into some ideas about women. So how is the lady described and why? And what items are stereotypically feminine here? And what do these items suggest? Thinking about bracelets and garlands and monetary value. And finally, we have a mention of love here. Who shows love in the poem, and what else is shown to do with love? Does it ever say that he's in love with her? Or does it say that she is in love with him? This is quite interesting, considering he believes he was abandoned by her. So pause the video now and see if you can complete these tasks. Okay, check your understanding. Again, I've left you a link in the description. You've seen this website before. It takes you through highlighted sections within the poem and explains it analytically for you. Final thought. How do you think the poet portrays the theme of love? So use the sentence starters to help you and email me your responses. I look forward to hearing from you, and good luck with this poem.